All right, Amanda. So the first question I have is, would you please like to introduce yourself and tell us about non-binary solutions?
Sure. So I'm Amanda Ralston. I'm the founder and CEO of NonBinary Solutions based out of Lexington, Kentucky. Um, I have been a 25-year practitioner, subject matter expert in autism. Um, so I have been certified as a behavior analyst since around the turn of the century. 2002, I first became certified, and I've built 2 clinics that provided therapy for individuals with autism. And I sold the last one in 2019, and then started NonBinary Solutions last May in 2022. So, yeah, I can tell you a little bit more about what that is, or
Yeah, I would like to hear, please kindly expand on the non-binary solutions, as in what does it exactly do, and how did you come up with the idea?
Sure. So, NonBinary Solutions is clinical decision support SaaS software. And so this technology has been used in healthcare for over 4 decades, but it is new to applied behavior analysis therapy. So I'm sort of making this technology for the first time for practitioners like myself, because what has happened in our industry is that we've had a 500% increase in providers in the last 10 years. And over half of those providers have less than 5 years of experience. So I've got 25 years of experience. Over half of the field has less than 5 years experience. So they're making very, very complicated treatment decisions without much experience, right? So the clinical decision support software is a way of giving them digital bumper reels, like a way to keep where they should be thinking about all of this information within a certain zone, so that it sort of sends them through a pathway to organize their thoughts and make clinical decision making standardized.
And why did you get into this?
Yeah. Well, it, I when I had my clinics, I was the one asking all the questions with each client as they would come in for the intake process. And after I sold my clinic and I saw the vast amount of mistakes and errors and treatment decisions that were being made by younger providers, I knew that there had to be a better way to help mentor and support those younger providers as they were coming up, because there's just not enough old folks like me around to actually help train them. And so this technology is a way of solving for that sort of crisis of mentorship, support, training, and balancing caseloads in an ethical and efficacious way.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back and request you to make me understand the clinical decision support system, correct?
Yes.
Can you give me an example? How exactly does it work with like a sort of a short case study? So how it would help someone, a practitioner?
Okay. So let's say you get a person with autism, a client that comes in and they have limited vocal abilities, right? So they may not be able to speak and ask for what they want. So at that point, we would have to select a augmentative communication system, another way that they would be able to communicate rather than vocally. And so the 3 most popular are sign language, picture communication systems, or a technological device, right? And so if a practitioner is trying to decide what's the most appropriate communication modality for this individual, they are weighing 3 things at the same time. They're weighing what the client prefers, both what their skills actually are able to allow them to do. The second thing that they're weighing is what the environment supports. So that might include the physical environment, like their home life or the school system. It also would include the funding environment, like if insurance would pay for it. And then the third thing they're weighing is what they themselves are confident in teaching, right? So you could have a scenario where the client and the family prefers sign language, and the environment support sign language, but the clinician is not competent in teaching sign language. They're only competent in picture selection systems or technology devices. And so the clinical decision support system helps them weigh those three decisions and says, based on everything you've told me, here's the best thing to do. Here's the second best thing to do. Now you need to go to your client and ask them what they prefer, given the pros and cons of both of those choices. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So is it based on artificial intelligence? How does it decide? Like, how does it integrate or synthesize this data to make a decision?
Yeah, those are the proprietary algorithms that are being designed within the systems, right? And it's based off of my history, my personal intellectual property of having made all these decisions for years and years and years. So yeah, it's complicated.
So when you were developing this software, were you concerned about all the ethical and legal obligations, compliance? So what sort of challenges did you have to overcome?
Well, still working on them, right? There are ethical concerns that anytime you come up with a new technology, that how could this potentially be used against individuals with autism, right? And so there's lots of disclaimer language and directions at the beginning of the models that sort of say, hey, this technology is not meant to supplant clinician judgment, right? This is not telling you what to do. It's telling you what to think about. Ultimately, you are responsible, dear provider, for the ethical and legal policies and procedures that your particular environment that you're existing in, because here in the United States, you've got 50 different states that all have insurance mandates, right, to cover treatment for autism. Completely different regulatory environments in each of those 50 states. Like what the law says, totally different. So ultimately, I can't make the software speak to each of the 50 states right off the bat. So it's really up to the provider to be aware of what the particular environment supports and does not support.
So they have to make use of the software themselves, right? How much of a research do they have to do to make it work in their jurisdiction, if I understood you correctly? So is it like a bit of a learning curve, or how do they overcome this?
Well, I mean, each of those providers, if they become certified, then they have attested that they understand an ethical code of their own, right? According to the Behavior Analyst Certification Board. And also, if they are licensed, then they have agreed to the licensure and the regulation within their particular state, right? So they would already have to know that information to become certified and licensed providers.
Okay. And could you please tell me, when you established this, how big of a team you had? How much support did you have? The kind of people that you had to contact and get on board? Or was it like a solo journey? So can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. Initially, starting last May, I bootstrapped this entire project. Fairly early on, I brought on my CFO, who is a fractional CFO, so he's sort of a part-time team member. He does this for lots of different groups. And then through a accelerator program called Launch Blue here in Kentucky, I met a great number of people that were very supportive as advisors. And so I met my technical advisor through that program, and then he introduced me to who became my product manager from his previous venture. And then I had another founder here in the ecosystem introduce me to my development team. So it's been sort of a slow acquisition to gather the team members, and we're just really getting started with the initial build out for the SaaS platform. I mean, we're very much early still.
Were you directly supervising the developers, or was it through someone else?
Yeah, the product manager is supervising the developers, or at least acting as a liaison between me and what the clinical wireframe looks like, and translating that to the development team.
And do you think the technology is doing enough, or how much of a room is there for other technologies or startups or software, the one that you have helped build? So do you think a lot more needs to be done when it comes to helping people with autism or other forms of disabilities?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just getting started with what different technologies will be able to do to support people. I mean, it's been a minute, but in researching what kind of technologies are out there for individuals with autism, I saw a group that was taking individuals who had minimal vocal abilities, again, more profoundly affected individuals with autism, and using an algorithm to learn what some of their different vocalizations might mean in terms of I'm hungry, I'm in pain, I want somebody to interact with me, so on and so forth. And so using those in a way that the algorithm was learning what each of those different vocalizations mean, and then having an actual speech output come out as a result, so that the people could understand, novel people, not family members, would understand what this person was trying to communicate. So, I mean, I really think we're just getting started with how all these technologies would be able to help people with autism.
What sort of, what sort of wearables do you imagine?
Yeah, I've got a friend, Brandon Hershkovitz, and his group. I can't think of the name of the startup. They're up in Boston, but wearables to track self-injury, for example. So if a person is getting ready to start engaging in self-injurious behavior, I think having something to do with the accelerometer. I think that there are technologies coming, again, to try to predict when somebody might be moving towards an aggression or a self-injurious state based on skin conductivity, temperature, heart rate, things like that. So I think as we harness more data and start looking at it intelligently, I think we'll be able to get to better solutions for people with autism.
Let me paint a hypothetical scenario. Imagine you had all the power or the money or the resources. What kind of technology do you imagine right now that's on your list? So you have established this, the software that you have already built. What sort of other technologies are on your bucket list? Infinite resource review.
Infinite resources, good grief. I don't know. I've been so focused on the minimal resources I need to get this thing off the ground. I can't imagine a scenario where I have infinite resources. Yeah, I mean, I think if I had infinite resources, I would like to be in the position to try to help other founders that have good ideas get off the ground. It's sort of the dream is to scale this thing, exit successfully, and then be able to help from the other side of the ecosystem one day. But in terms of what I would hope for other individuals with autism, I mean, part of what I'm trying to solve for here is identifying the different types of people with autism that are being treated, because right now everybody's lumped under this one diagnosis code. Everybody just has autism.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just so unhelpful to just have this one code, this one diagnosis for all of these different types of people. So part of what I'm really interested in finding out through non-binary solutions data is understanding what are the different behavioral phenotypes, what are the different behavioral profiles of those different types of people with autism, and who responds well to what kind of intervention in what kind of setting, with what kind of interventions, with what type of practitioners, and for how long, right? Because there are lots of different ways to approach treatment. And we don't have enough research or data, I think, right now to really stand on any of that sort of parsing out of various types of autism. So I think it's important that we get more specific about who's within our walls so that we can treat them more effectively.
Recently, you attended a startup grind. Did you see any innovative solution that you were interested in? Sort of something like, this is what you want to build, or got inspired by something?
I met a couple of interesting folks. One is Ni Shu, who was he is the founder and CEO of a group called AI for Government. And so I think he is trying to build something that is really understanding the healthcare data from the government side of supports. So I'm interested to see what he's building. Just as a shout out to another Kentucky founder here, Akil Nair has a group called Xena Intelligence that seems to be doing very well. So those were a couple of folks that I met along the way through Startup Grind that I think are exciting.
Would you like to travel to other parts of the world to attend these tech conferences and see what other folks are up to? Maybe have a collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally curious about what the world looks like in general. You know, I've only traveled a little bit out of the United States, not very far, but I'm always curious about how autism is viewed and treated from a cultural standpoint, from a clinical standpoint. You know, see again who's doing what well and what works and what doesn't work, so that we can apply those things more effectively here. So.
And any collaboration with universities to get the best of the latest research? So do you have any groups that you are part of?
Yeah, actually, one of our first partners is the University of Georgia. They have the Center for Autism and Behavioral Education Research in Athens, Georgia, and we are building a custom intake model for that group. Also working here with the University of Kentucky with the Center for Innovation and Population Health, and taking a very large data set that they have related to an assessment tool called the CANS, and trying to make some neural networking out of that data and understanding how that assessment tool might have implications for diagnostics and outcomes research for individuals with autism as well. And then I've got a couple other friends at some other universities that I'm in talks with as well. So definitely trying to leverage those relationships.
Could you explain the custom intake model?
Yeah. So with the intake models, it's asking every question I've ever learned to ask myself for a brand new client coming into somebody's care. But they're customized per each of the universities' policies and procedures, right? They have their own types of individuals that they're bringing into their care through different types of funnels, et cetera. So University of Georgia, as an example, gets students that are no longer being served by the public school district. And so understanding who those students are, what their particular histories are, what has worked, what has not worked, what kind of environment have they been in the past, what could be potentially triggering to them, so on and so forth. So yeah, the intake models is just populating all the information you need to know about each of those individual students as they come into your care and saying, this is how you're going to set this person up for best possible outcomes before day one. And then tracking that data all the way through their discharge from that program to determine whether or not there's been an effective outcome.
Now, considering the trend of AI, are you actually excited that it's going to help you or speed up the process of innovation, software development? Practically speaking, have you tried anything using AI?
Nothing yet, other than my own personal toying around with ChatGPT. That's about as far as I've gotten so far. And I think, again, since I'm just getting started with these builds, I think it gives us all time to wait and see where everybody lands on the ethics of AI and improving the sort of policies and procedures around the development and use of those things in human research. I think we've got some thinking to do about where the line should be drawn with AI. So,
While using ChatGPT, what surprised you the most, or if it surprised you or got you excited? Well, this makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I mean, what was surprising, I guess, is that it gives you a pretty neutral response. When it first asks, it sort of plays its own devil's advocate, doesn't want to land hard right or left on any one issue unless you really start pressuring it. So I think, it's based on what you feed it, right? The machine learning takes place based on what you feed the model in the first place. So I think it's exciting for the types of models that I'm building clinically because if we can get a large enough data set, it will be fed on just these individual universities, right? So we'll really have an understanding of what's going well at the University of Georgia and what's going well at the University of Kentucky and what's going well over here, and be able to take that information and then apply it to each of the different models so that everybody benefits, right? Mm-hmm. So I think those are good implications, but time will tell.
Yeah, I was going through a chat on Reddit, and someone posted that a 5-year-old posted their talk with their parents, and they put a made-up word, and the AI made sense of it, realizing what it was. I mean, it wasn't fed, but it just figured it out, what the child meant. So that was pretty amazing.
Right.
Yeah. Talking about making an impact, would you like to share any stories or case studies where you made an impact on a family, where you or your startup helped a family overcome an obstacle or a challenge, autism or not?
I mean, I've got tons of stories from my clinical practice times. The kids that I started out with are adults now, and that's been one thing that has continued to fuel my curiosity and my learning about autism, is that some individuals with autism will need some type of care for a lifetime. And, in the 90s and the early aughts, everybody's focus was getting insurance coverage for early childhood intervention. And now some of those individuals are now in their 20s and they don't have appropriate services available to them. So again, it's really just a matter of being passionate and curious about how I can continue to help, and what can I bring forth in the world that is helpful based on all of my successes, but more so all of my learnings and failures. And how can I help other people prevent making those same mistakes without having to get their own data. So, I don't know. It's helping people understand what should be a priority on their treatment plans, as other providers, is a big deal to me. I see a lot of examples where families will come into a clinic and say, hey, my 8-year-old son still isn't toilet trained. He only eats 5 things. And we can't go to church anymore because he screams the whole time. And then an experienced provider will just say, okay, we'll do this assessment over here and this assessment over here. And those assessments have nothing to do with the 3 things that family just said were a quality of life issue, right? And so they go off and they do their treatment plan based on how they know to think about everything, but they weren't actually listening to the family. Or they didn't know how to translate it in a way that was going to be meaningful. So that's what I'm really hoping that the software helps accomplish, is connecting the dots between, okay, these are the 3 things that a family just told me are impacting their day-to-day quality of life, and here's what I can do in my treatment plan that will actually have a socially valid, meaningful change.
So in terms of, say, looking forward 5 or 10 years, what sort of goals or challenges are you looking to overcome? So you see a lot of gap that needs to be filled. So something that you just don't think about, that's on your bucket list or on your timeline.
Say that again for me. So my personal goals in 5 to 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I would like to scale this company and have a big exit, a large multiple for myself and all my investors. That's the big goal, right? So again, it's not binary. I can make a product that's, life-changing for a lot of people with autism, and also exit successfully. So.
Okay. And after that, say you exit successfully, after that, are you looking for more products or software, or is it just like?
Oh, I can't imagine. It's not like I'll retire. I don't sit still very well. So no, just so I'm sure I'll come up with something else. I've been joking that my next venture will be in menopause, since that's not a thing around here.
I'm sorry, what?
Menopause.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Amanda. We've come to the end of our podcast. I've gone through all of the questions. It has been a very fruitful and productive session. I really don't know much about autism myself, so it was very revealing, and I'm truly inspired by the experience that you have. The way I've understood it, not much of it, even though like I don't know much about it, but yeah, the software, it's probably going to connect the dots, as you said, the academic knowledge or the experience that the practitioners have, plus the case at their hands. So probably there's hope as far as the software is concerned or the technology is concerned. So probably that's hope for me as far as tech is concerned. I hope you agree with that if I've synthesized it very well.
Yes, absolutely. Well done.
Thank you so much. All right, Amanda, pleasure talking to you. Do come on next time, some other episode.
Okay. Thank you very much for hosting me. It's lovely to meet you, and love your shirt. Hope it wins.
Yeah, the editor is gonna tell me if it worked or not. So,
all right. Thank you so much.
Welcome. All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.